Tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai, and welcome to the live stream of Kōrero with local body candidates for the 2022 local body elections. My name is Ivor Jones and my family and I call Ōpōtiki home since we moved here from Rotorua in 2011. As a resident that will be voting in this year's elections on the 8th of October 2022, I was interested in asking the mayoral and council candidates if they would have a kōrero with me about who they are and why they have applied for the positions they have. I work in the digital media field, and the intention of this cast is to raise the awareness in the Ōpōtiki community of the characteristics and qualities of those people who are wishing to serve the community. I've spoken directly to several candidates, and a number are supportive, including today's guest, prospective Ōpōtiki Ward Councillor Tom Brooks. Tēnā koe, Tom. A YouTube channel exists that currently holds 9 hui with mayoral and council candidates. I hope to have all 15 candidates there before the 8th of October 2022, and that you are able to reference them in the future to help you make your decisions. All candidates receive the same 10 questions upon which our kōrero is based, which should be around 15 to 30 minutes in length, and I hope that you find it of value and are able to share it around with whānau just to raise the awareness of who you'd like to vote for. I would like to welcome Tom. Tom is standing for one of the 3 positions of councillor in the Ōpōtiki ward. Tom states that I have served on the Ōpōtiki College Board of Trustees, mainly as a chairman, and been a board member of a number of trusts, including Blue Light and the Extreme Trust. I believe in democracy, honesty and transparency. This is why I am standing to be a councillor for the town ward. Tēnā koe, Tom. Question number 1, who are you and why are you running in this election?
I am obviously Tom Brooks. I am a retired police officer. I was born in England, and I have been in Ōpōtiki since I've been in Ōpōtiki for 35 plus years. New Zealand a bit longer. I left school at 15. Joined the army, in British police officer, and I met my wife Robin, who was on an OE. Came to New Zealand eventually and joined I had a business, and then I joined the New Zealand Police, and I recently retired. 3 children, all who grew up in Ōpōtiki, and I now got 7 grandchildren. Of various mixed descent, Māori, Chinese, English, whatever you want to call it. Some of them who are here today, school holidays being the thing. Basically, why I'm running for election is that I'm a little bit fed up with the way the council has been going. And that is, I think that too much has gone behind closed doors. We have these workshops and decisions are made with no reference to the community. Things like the Lowbucks building that was pulled down when I described as in decent haste really was done in secrecy because no one knew about it. And when someone did know about it, they actually had got the petition up, and that was completely ignored. There was nothing wrong with the building, so that really sort of started me off. And then all of a sudden, these grandiose plans of sewerage and everything else in this town, and I just think, hang on a minute, we as ratepayers have got a right to know what's going on and whether we agree. And quite frankly, I don't think we were informed and were invited into the decision. Another decision was the sewerage system they proposed in the katoa area. Well, the previous council engineer, Dave Reese, quite clearly said there's no need for it. This has been visited by council previously, and all of a sudden it's become a flavour of the month, and it's going to be happening. When it went out for consultation, a lot of people, in fact, about 170 or 180 people said no. But when on the paper for the yes, no, or whatever, there was no. It was either this option or that option, and that's completely undemocratic. You can't just turn around and say, look, hey, this is what we propose and these are your options. You've got to be able to turn around and say, well, look, I don't like that idea. Or you need to revisit it. Or you need to consult it. And that's the sort of thing that really got me. So that's why I decided that about time that we need to get in there and transparency and reboot the democratic process. I mean, like the wharf is another example. We've got this just passed this last week, which I don't particularly agree with because I don't think everyone's been consulted properly. Certainly, it doesn't look like the boaties have been consulted, and they are one of the main users of that area. I think that's if you're going to do anything in this town, it's a very small town. You need to get the town with you. You need to get them to come in and have a look and say, right, what do you feel about this? Let's put the feelers out. If someone doesn't want to have that, then they should be able to have their voice heard. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. Whether you agree with it or not, that doesn't matter. But everyone has got the right to be heard. And councils have got an obligation to listen and to take those on board when they're making decisions.
Excellent response to question number 1, Tom. Thank you very much. Question number 2. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing your community of Ōpōtiki? You've already touched upon some of the concerns that you have in your response to question number 1. What do you see as the biggest challenge or challenges facing your community of Ōpōtiki?
The biggest challenges we have in this town is the fact that we've now got a harbour being developed. We've now got to look at the infrastructure around that. The towns, obviously, we want the town to improve and grow, but we've also got to be mindful of the money that it's going to take to do that. So every time an asset comes to the council, we have to then pay for that, depreciation, etc., etc. That goes on the rates. So we've got things that we need to look at. So spending money when we haven't got it is, to me, is a fundamental thing we need to do. So if I was to go into council for a start, I'd be wanting to ask, well, what's our financial status? Because if we don't want to burden the community, whether by rates or by taxes, it's irrelevant which one it is, you're still paying for it as a taxpayer or a ratepayer, or both. And the sewerage system is one of the big issues I can see, because that's going to run out of its consent in about 3 years. It's in the wrong place. It was in the right place at the time because the town was small enough and that was where it was put. It's running out into the sea, or filtering down into the sea. It's in the wrong place. It should be inland. Where it is at the moment is a prime area for development, as I see that. I think that it's in the wrong place, so if people are going to go down there, they go and look at the groins and the harbour entrance and then have the sewer system just up there. So if it's not going to be, it's not going to meet its obligations to pass a consent, because I don't think it will, then we need to revisit and look at where we could look at. Then we've got to look at what system we're going to use, and we've got to make a cost-effective system we can. So that's one of the big things. Of course, the government are going to try this Three Waters business. There's nothing wrong with our water. Yeah, we've got some infrastructure problems, and I said we've got sewage problems. The thing being, of course, if you have central government come in and make decisions for you, we have no input locally at all. No, that's not democratic in my view. Certainly, we've got to look at the systems of saying, if this is going to come in, how's it going to benefit us? Because the current model, I think you have to have about 50,000 people or population to get a vote on these so-called boards. And to me, we're never going to, the whole of the Eastern Bay is not going to reach that. So we're going to be basically told what we're going to have and what we're not going to have. That's it. And to me, that's unfair. So I think that we need to be able to take our own destiny in our hands, and we need to look at the things that are going to work for us in this town.
Excellent, Tom. Thank you very much. A very strong response to question number 2. Question number 3. If elected, what do you hope to achieve by the end of the term? You've indicated some concerns. You have a 3-year go. What are you going to get? What are you going to produce by the end of it?
Okay, so the first thing I want to do by the end, I want to be able to go that everyone is confident in the council's processes. So the fact that they it's a democratic process, they have the right to submit their ideas and their for or against in certain proposals, and the council is more transparent. That's what I want to achieve in the 3 years. Obviously, there's some things I don't know about because I'm not in council at the moment. But certainly from that point of view, I've made it quite clear to some of the people that were in council previously that, they need to sort of be looking at listening to the community. I think that's the biggest thing that you have. I mean, there's a lot of feeling out there for or against. And I know some people moan and don't vote. That's fine. It's the way they are. We can't force them to vote. And nor should we, because it's their democratic right to either vote or not to vote. Mm-hmm. But certainly from the point of view of where we're going to achieve in 3 years, I want to make sure that the whole process is in a better place, that we're financially responsible. That's the biggest thing I think the council needs to be, is financially responsible. Because if we haven't got the money, you can have all the dreams in the world, but someone somewhere has got to pay for that.
Excellent. Number 4. What do you think the role of local government is in shaping the future and success of the community of Ōpōtiki?
So I think that local government has a role to play in growing the town. So one of the things I've identified is that we haven't got enough industrial area zoned for businesses to come in. So we've got a Groins and a new harbour coming in. Yet our industrial land is pretty limited. So what we need to do is encourage people to come into the town. So that will encourage employment. They'll have to look at, you can't not employ locals when you're coming into a town because you're going to say, well, what do I need to know? We've got people that are unemployed, and people that are unemployable, basically. But those that we should really try every effort to get them employed. And the only way we're going to do that is to get businesses to come into town and make it attractive for them to do so.
Question number 5. What do you think is your most important attribute that you see as an asset or contribution to the council table?
Okay, as I said in the council meet candidates evening, there's one thing that people that know me will know, and that is that you won't know what I think, because I'll be telling you quite firmly what I think. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everyone, and a lot of people don't agree with me, which is fine. But at least you've got to be open, and you've got to be honest, and you've got to stand up and say, right, well, I agree to disagree, and you've got to move on. You're not going to get everything you want. So you might vote for something, you might lose that vote. You just got to say, okay, take it on the chin and move on. That's really what we've got to do.
Thank you very much. We're 15 minutes into this cast, and question number 5. This is where I segue into this. I encourage people to go to the Ōpōtiki District Council website and to check out who the candidates are. There's a button on the home page. There's lots of information in here. Scroll down to the nominated candidates. Where do we go? Where are they? Right there. And scroll down and you'll find Tom in here. Did I scroll past it, Tom? There you go. Have a look at Tom's profile. All the profiles have to follow a standard format, and this podcast here enables you to expand on that a bit. So thank you very much, Tom, for doing that. I encourage people to go and have a look at the website. We are up to question number 6, Tom. How do you envisage working with others in council, especially those who don't agree with you? It would seem that there is a bit of tension amongst council members, the current council members, and this is a theme that has come through. So this question is quite important. How do you envisage working with others in council, especially those who you don't agree with?
Okay, I know most of the people are standing. Some I've worked with before. I think that what you've got to remember is that we're all individuals, and I think that having a bunch of individuals together is, quite frankly, a strength. I used to turn around when people used to ask me why I was disagreeing with something, and I always remember someone calling me a salmon because I was just not going. I was going against the flow, and my response to that was that if everyone went with the flow, we'd all be out to sea. Some people need to turn around and say, no, hang on a minute, I don't necessarily agree. So when you're working with people, you've got to be respectful. You've actually got to turn around and actually listen to what they're saying, give them their opportunity. And as we're in a democracy, that's when the council has got 6 members and the mayor. That's where you turn around and you have those debates. And if you can sway someone in that debate, if you come up with a decent argument, you should open it, fair enough. And that's basically what it is. I don't think it's rocket science. I mean, I've been on boards. As I said, I was on the Ōpōtiki board for a number of years. I was on the National Blue Light board for years. And I was on the Extreme Trust, which is used to turn into earth racing. It's the guy who went around the world with eco-friendly boat. Got involved in that early on in the piece. But anyway, it is what it is. And really, you've got to turn around and make sure that everyone has their say, and don't take it personally. I think that's one of the things that people need to do, is not take it necessarily personally. I'm not, if I don't like someone, I'll tell them. But they're a king, I'll have to respect them. And it's the same applies to me. If someone doesn't like me, that's fine. I mean, there's lots of people over my career that haven't liked me for various reasons, and that's fine. I can live with that. I just, fair enough.
I guess in your police and army careers, you've had to deal with difficult people anyway. So you'd have
difficult people. Most of the time, it was. To be fair, most of the time, it was good. Especially in the police, you've got to have that sort of. There's times when you've got to go forward and be a little bit forceful. Times when you've got to sit back and say, hang on, and get that perspective. But it is challenging, and it's one of the things that's I think is an attribute for me.
Excellent. Thank you. Number 7. What are your thoughts around the role of local and central government? What could be improved?
Communication is the thing I think can be improved. I think the central government are dictating too much at the moment, and I look at the 3 waters, for example. The majority of local councils in the country, whether you support it or not, and you think the idea of the concept's great, have said no, and it's still going ahead. So, it's like when people are telling you that they don't agree with it or don't like the idea of this and they're in the majority, then you've got to turn around and actually listen and maybe go back and talk to them as to why it's a good idea or not. But you still really, really need to be aware that if that occurs, then there's something wrong with your systems and your proposal. Yeah, I mean, I think that they can certainly be involved to support. I don't think they should be there to dictate.
Thank you very much. Question number 8. How would you lead your community through challenging times such as a natural disaster? If you had your councillor hat on, how would you do that?
Well, I've done that in the police. I've been, I was in the last one was the big tides and winds a few years ago. We had a big storm. And I came over and I was with John Fawkes was there. And I worked with the civil defence, and I think that we made some decisions there, and I gave some advice, and that was heeded, and we were able to evacuate people before it turned pear-shaped. From that, I've learned quite a bit. Actually, I look at around our area, it's not if we're going to have a natural disaster, it's going to be when. Yeah, and I think that the council needs to strengthen the civil defence response. We have real good assets and strengths in our community. We've got a number of maraes that are set up for large amounts of people, for sleeping, for eating, etc. And we need to be looking at saying, okay, if we're going to have an emergency, what do we need? What equipment do we need to get to these venues to look after people if they're displaced from home? That's some of the things that we really need to have a hard look at. I was in the police in the 87 earthquake in Whakatane. And I remember that the communication was appalling, as it always is in a natural disaster. I also went down to Christchurch for their earthquake when I was down there. And I used to turn around and say, hang on a minute, and just think about this. If you make a decision, you've got to realise that it might impact on a number of people. You've got to make the right decision to lessen that pain, as it were. Because no one wants to leave their house, but you've got to say to them, sorry, but sometimes when you've got to go. I was at the edge of floods, so no one knows that. So I've been around natural disasters for quite a number of years.
So as a councillor, if you got the phone call at 2 a.m. that there's an earthquake or a tsunami on the way, with you as your councillor, with your councillor hat on, thank you for sharing that you've been involved in these sort of things in the past. With your councillor hat on, what are you going to do?
Well,
actually, strengthening.
I'd want to get down there and make sure that everyone was supported and we had the right people doing the right job. And certainly we have a civil defence controller and a number of people advising. With my background, I can advise, but also we have to turn around and say, they're in charge. What do we need to do? How can we help? What do you want me to do? And one of the things is not get in the way, because politicians tend to get in the way. Yes, they can be the face for the media. They can talk about various things, but they need to listen to the professionals and actually not get in the way.
Excellent. Thank you. Question number 9. How do you plan to connect with all parts of the community and ensure that their voices are heard? I heard that you're very strong on business and getting more businesses introduced. How are we going to manage the future expenses coming up? How are we going to bring more in? I hear you thinking about those questions. How do you plan to link in with the community? So not necessarily business, but community voices to ensure that they're heard.
Yeah, well, I live in the community. I speak to people in the community. I go to the New World. I go for coffee. I wander downtown. I know various parts of this community. And so I'm pretty much approachable, and I get hit up a lot of times about various things. I dealt with the youth in the Eastern Bay of Plenty for 20 odd years. So all these things are there. But, when you're talking to people, you've got to say, well, I think half the thing is you need to explain to them what it's all about rather than not. But certainly from the point of view of community consultation, I've got a lot of my daughters have got lots of through their relationships, marriages, etc. We have a quite a large
connections into hapu and groups.
Yeah, right. My wife actually was, she was born in Whakatane, and family who were originally from Rotorua. So we've got lots of family here as well. So you get hit up all the time, and that's fine. And I am now, currently getting hit up at the moment. We revamped the Ratepayers Association because we didn't like the way the council were doing certain things to put some pressure on. That's a wide and varied group. And really all that, people want to be heard. And so if you're not listening, then you're not really doing much good there. So I think that actually going downtown, having a cup of coffee, walking around in the local shops, in the chemists, etc. People can just, they do now, they just hit you up and say, well, hey, what do you think about that? So you're going to take 5 minutes to actually have a little conversation. What's wrong with that? I used to do it as a policeman, so I'm sure I can still carry on.
Excellent. We're up to the last question, Tom. Question number 10. Elected members must act in the best interests of their community and declare any interests that could be perceived as a conflict to being impartial. Do you have any interests that could be perceived as a conflict to being impartial?
No. Someone asked me that the other day, and I just said, look, I don't want my roads arseing. I don't own a business in town. Yes, I'm connected by marriage or by grandkids to people in town. I actually want to be involved and help the community as a whole. Just with various groups, you've got to cost of that. Because one group's not working well, then you've got to support that group. So you've got to make things balance.
Excellent.
So no interests.
You're not a member of Voices for Freedom, Tom?
No.
Freedom and Rights Coalition?
No. Destiny Church.
Destiny Church?
No.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you, Tom, for your time. That's 28 minutes. We've done really well. And thank you for sharing your story about why and how you'd like to become a councillor for the community of Ōpōtiki in 2022. I'd like to thank our viewers for watching and taking in this information. And I hope that you're now more informed about our candidates and that this has helped you to make an informed decision when you go to vote on the 8th of October. The voting rates are really down at the moment. This is across the country. Why am I doing this? I'm not being paid to do this. This is just about raising the awareness of the candidates and trying to get that information out there to help people make their decisions. So thank you very much. I'd like to thank Tom for coming in and sharing that information with us. Ngā mihi, Tom. Thank you very much.